transparent process and encouragement of public comment during our meetings. We will be accepting public comments based on using the hand raised feature. You can raise your hand at any time and we will recognize you as we get to the public participation portion of the agenda for each case. Moderators, Arnett.
Yep.
Just you, right?
It's just me.
Okay. We'll be asked to provide names of those individuals that wish to speak again as hands are raised. I would like to call the meeting of the City of Wildwood's Board of Adjustment to order. The board members present today are Deborah Coleman, board member, Arnie Sprunger, board member, Jared Frank, vice chair, Bob Mandor, alternate, and myself, Mary Giles, chair. The Department of Planning staff present is Joe Vunich, Director of Planning, and Terry Gaston, Senior Planner. City Attorney John Young and Court Reporter Courtney Coleman are also present. First, I offer into the record the affidavit of publication meeting June 18, 2020. To take official notice of the zoning ordinance of City of Wildwood, including Chapter 400, Article 2, authorizing and establishing the Board of Adjustment's power and duties. Now, let me explain the hearing procedure. Please be aware the information I'm about to describe is also provided on the Board of Adjustment public hearing procedure handout, which was available online prior and up to tonight's meeting. This is an informal type of hearing. However, the meeting's proceedings will be recorded by a reporter for future transcription if needed. The petitions are called in the order listed on the agenda. As the petition is called, I will ask a Department of Planning staff member to read each request into the record. Thereafter, the Department of Planning will have opening remarks and a brief slide presentation. Then the petitioner or their representative will be asked to state their name and address, be sworn in by the court reporter, and make a brief presentation to the board explaining the nature of the requested variance and the hardship necessitating it. The board will only consider the nature and condition of the property and whether these factors mandate a variance in order to allow for its full utilization. Board members may ask questions to clarify the facts of the petitioner's presentation. When the board is satisfied with the material presented by the petitioner, the chair will then ask if there's anyone present online who would like to speak in favor of or opposition to the request. Each speaker will be asked to provide their name and address, be sworn in, and then state their comments. Procedurally, the petitioner may request a continuance at any time during the hearing, prior to a call for the vote, in order to bring in additional documentation or information. The board may also request a continuance to gather additional information or for a further visit to the site. After the conclusion of input from all interested parties, the board will ask a staff person to provide the Department of Planning's report on this matter, if requested by any member of the board, the petitioner, or any individual that is participating online. Additionally, any other information not presented in the previous testimony but pertinent to the request will be noted at this time. Once all speakers have been heard, the chair will call for a motion to grant or deny with or without conditions. Then the board will vote. At that time, the discussion relating to the petition is concluded and no further input will be permitted. The board will generally make a decision today. 4 members of the board must vote in favor of the petition for it to be approved. If a variance is approved, the petitioner has 6 months to obtain the necessary permits or establish the use for it will expire. If the board's decision is unfavorable, the petitioner has the right of appeal to the St. Louis County Circuit Court. This appeal must be done within 30 days of the decision. Moderator Arnett, are there any questions at this time?
I'm not seeing any, but I will reiterate to we have 3 attendees on. The 2 are the petitioners and then another member of the public. So I would just reiterate that if any of you do want to speak or have any questions, to use the raise hand feature or comment in the chat and I'll be able to bring you in. But at this time, I see none.
Thank you. Hearing no questions at this time, the board will proceed. May the first request be read into the record, which will be followed by initial comments by the Department of Planning and a brief slide presentation.
Madam Chair, the first case tonight is Board of Adjustment 13-20, John and Sandra Weidman, 17639 West Hampton Woods Drive, Wildwood, Missouri, 63005, care of Jared Heinz Pool Spa, 53 Marketplace Drive, Freeburg, Illinois, 62243. Request an exception to the minimum yard requirements general for the purpose of constructing an in-ground swimming pool with associated concrete decking, all of which are accessory to the established principal use, i.e. existing single-family dwelling circa 1998, upon the property located at 17639 West Hampton Woods Drive, St. Louis County locator number 20V11001, 0410, Lot 164 of West Hampton Woods Subdivision, Plat 2, established 1995 by Plat Book 338, page 48. If granted, this variance would thereby authorize a side yard setback distance of 5 feet in lieu of the required 8-foot standard. This request is contrary to the requirements of Chapter 415, 110, R1 1-acre resident district regulations of the City of Wildwood zoning ordinance and St. Louis County Planned Environment Unit, PEU, ordinance number 16695 in 1993. This particular property is located in Ward 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bunich.
Madam Chair, Ms. Gaston would like to proceed forward with the introduction of the items into the record in the slide presentation.
Thank you.
Before beginning the hearing on this case, the Department of Planning would like to offer into the record the following as exhibits: the city's charter and master plan, the municipal code of the City of Wildwood, specifically Chapter 400, Article 2, the Board of Adjustments establishment duties and powers, Chapter 415, zoning regulations, the file prepared and maintained on this request, including the petitioner's application and related information, as well as the department's recommendation report, and any testimony, exhibits, or other information offered as part of tonight's hearing as evidence in this cause, and all of which may apply to the case before you this evening. We do have a slide presentation pertaining to this case if the board would like it presented at this time.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, that means we're going to share a screen, so we're all going to go away for a minute.
Thank you, Moderator Arnett. This slide depicts the subject property in relation to its location within West Hampton Woods subdivision. As you can see, it's north of West Hampton Woods, the main collector street that enters the subdivision from 109, and it is a loop road. Here is a slide of the location respective to City Hall. It is north on 109 and to the east on West Hampton Woods Drive. This is an aerial photo of the property showing existing conditions. As you can see, the existing single-family home, circa 1998. It does have a deck, a patio below it, and then a patio to the side of it. This slide depicts the same aerial photography, but with contours, elevation lines shown on here. And as you can see, it is higher at the street level, and then it falls about midway through the home, and then further at the tree line, and then again further at a lower elevation to the eastern property line. The property, as you can see in this aerial photo, is 50% heavily wooded. This picture represents the existing dwelling on the property. This is looking in a eastern direction, standing on West Hampton Woods Drive. This picture shows the subject property, which would be to the right of the screen, looking north. This is looking south, and that is across the street. There's a very short cul-de-sac road next to it. This is across the street, looking in a western direction. This is the subject property. This would be to the right of the home, again, looking in an eastern direction with standing on the street. Proceeding to the backyard, as you can see, there is an area inlet by the fence. The subject dwelling is to the left. Panning around, this is looking in a north direction, the existing deck with a patio below it. the stairway, and then another patio beyond it as well. This is just another perspective of sort of the same location. This shows the level area of the backyard. And the next slide will show a better picture of, thank you, where the improvement is proposed. This is looking in a western direction towards the street, the subject dwelling on the right, on the left, and that is the second patio. The basement walks out to that. And then approaching the street again, and these pictures just give you a characteristic idea of the property and surrounding lots as well. This picture is the plot plan showing the existing improvements. The large square on the left, well, that would be a rectangle, would be the existing home. And this shows the existing improvements as well as the proposed pool. Another pertinent characteristic of the property are the 6 easements that exist, actually 7 easements that exist on the property. There's easement at the frontage. There are easements down the sidelines, as moderator Arnett is showing. There's easement to the rear of the property. And then there are 3 additional utility easements that crisscross the property. And again, the subject of tonight's hearing is the swimming pool that is being requested by the petitioners. The next slide will show you a zoomed in portion of where the proposed improvements are going. So as you can see here, there's an existing wood deck, and then an existing patio to the left of that. And as a function of installing the pool is required to have a minimum of 3 feet of concrete decking surrounding it. So the pool itself does not encroach into the setback. It's the concrete decking that provides the integrity to the walls of the pool. And again, the request is a side yard setback of 5 feet in lieu of 8. The next slide shows you a little bit closer visual again of the portion of the concrete decking that will be in the side yard. And that wraps up the slide presentation for this case. Madam Chair and members of the board, if you would have any questions of Director Bunich or myself or moderator Arnett, we're available.
Thank you, Ms. Gaston. Are there any questions for the director or the Department of Planning? Seeing none at this time, can the petitioner please state their name, address in relation to the property, and then be sworn in by the court reporter?
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, so this is John Wademan and Sandra Wademan, 17639 West Hampton Woods Drive, Chesterfield, Missouri.
Can you tell us the relationship to the property and then be sworn in by the court reporter, please?
We are the owners of the property.
Thank you.
I can't see him.
I don't think your camera's on, Mr. Wademan.
Yeah, we don't
So
have a
we-
camera hookup,
Oh,
so
okay.
you'll
He's
have to
only on
trust us
audio.
that we're
Okay.
sitting here.
Just audio, Courtney.
Right.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, before we have the petitioners begin their presentation, I have a question for City Attorney Young. Since they do not have video, is tonight's hearing acceptable?
Yes.
Thank you.
Easy enough.
Thank
I
you.
like those direct answers, Mr. Young. Mr. Wademan, can you please explain the nature of your request and the hardship or practical difficulty necessitating the variance?
Sure. But before I start, I guess our representative from Heinz Pool is online, and I guess I would rather them present. I'm happy to, but I think it'd probably be better if they did. They give you the additional facts. Would that be possible?
Absolutely. Is the representative from the pool company could state your name and address, relationship to the property, and then be sworn in by the court reporter? You're on mute, sir.
Are you
There
able
you
to hear me now?
Now we can.
Yeah, so Jared Heinz Pool and Spa Company,
Your address?
453 Marketplace Drive, Freeburg, Illinois, 62243.
And then the relationship to the property.
We're the pool contractor hired by the homeowner.
All right, and then if you can be sworn in by the court reporter, please.
Sir, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
Thank you.
Okay, sir, can you please explain the nature of the request and the hardship or practical difficulty necessitating the variance as it relates to the character of the property?
so the homeowner is wanting to have a swimming pool built on his property. And to my knowledge, the part of the pool patio would encroach the easement located on the property. And we're requesting a variance to allow part of the pool patio to be in the easement.
All right, are there any board members that have any questions for Mr. Hines?
Yeah, it's Bob Nandor.
Well-
My question is, I see this is outside the sight line of the home. Not all homeowner indentures are the same, but has this been vetted through the homeowners association?
Actually, I believe it's in the setback, not in the easement. I'm sorry, but go ahead.
Thank you.
So have the homeowners,
Yes, the HOA has approved it.
they have approved it? Okay. Is there going to be a fence? Also, is that what the dotted line is on this graph?
Correct.
Okay. And that fence is that considered within the requested variance?
I believe so, yes.
If I may, Madam Chair and alternate Nandor,
Please.
the fences can go right on the property line up to a height of 6 feet. So it is not subject to the variance because it is permitted.
Okay, all right. Yeah, thanks for clarifying that, right?
You're welcome. Thank you.
And the concrete that we're speaking of is ground level? Correct?
I'm sorry?
The concrete that we're looking at the variance is ground level, true?
Yes.
Can you hear us?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, so maybe we can help too. So Subdivision has approved this, and then we sent that off to Steve Vogel. As well as we have a letter from our neighbor on that side, and they've accepted this minor encroachment into the easement. And so it is flat at that point, if that was the question.
Yes, yeah, okay. So it's not really going to be visible and you've got a fence. Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Nandor. Do any members of the board, any other members of the board have any questions for the petitioner or their representative? All right, hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Hines. At this time, are there any?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I believe Ms. Coleman's trying to ask something.
Ms. Coleman, go ahead.
Just a moment. Go. Dog problem. Stop barking. Is there any way the pool could have fit inside the area without encroaching? Rudy, please.
So
I believe Ms. Coleman's question to the petitioner and petitioner's representative, could the pool be shifted slightly to the south so as to eliminate any portion of it in the setback?
So, right, okay, so you can see, and you saw before, what we're dealing with as far as all these various, the sewer right-of-way and other areas that we have to stay away from. So we've spent quite a bit of time with Heinz to try to come up with something in the backyard that would actually fit. So what we've come up with, and you can see it there, is that I can't see, looking at the engineering drawings, that there's a way to move that to the south, if that's that direction, to be able to fit within and not encroach 3 feet into the easement.
Oh, I guess what I was asking was if you made the pool 3 feet shorter, then it would be able to fit in that area.
So right now we're looking at a 10 by 21 pool, which is 12 by 21 pool, which is pretty small. So if you cut 3 more feet out of that, this thing's becoming really, really tiny. So, I mean, we're working with Heinz. We were trying to maximize the area that we could get out of the yard, and given all the constraints that we have to deal with.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the board for the petitioner or the representative? Hearing none at this time. Moderator Arnett, did we receive any public comments? Or is there anybody that wants to speak from the public?
So I'll let either Joe or Terry reference any comments that were submitted online, but while they're doing that, I'll just reiterate and ask for those of you who are attending on the Zoom call, if you would like to speak on this request, if you can please indicate with either the raise hand feature or in the chat.
All right, and I think we did get copies of all of the comments that are attached to the reports, correct?
Yes, you did, Madam Chair. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to offer the opportunity for an oral presentation of the department's report. If anybody wants to hear it. See no request for that. Does the Department of Planning have any final comments?
Madam Chair, the Department of Planning has provided a recommendation report that is favorable to the variance request. We believe the impact is minimal, if any, and that the existence of those easements for utility purposes does render much of the site unbuildable. We believe the placement of the pool is appropriate given the physical characteristics of the lot. Madam Chair, Ms. Gaston, Ms. Arnett, and I are available for any questions or comments regarding the department's recommendation report. And thank you.
Thank you, Director Vunich. Do any board members have any final comments? All right, at this time, I'd like to call for a vote. Do we have a motion to approve, deny, or approve with conditions?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve the variance as requested. This is Bob Nandor.
Thank you, Mr. Nandor. We have a motion to approve with conditions. Do we have a second?
I'm sorry. I didn't add condition.
I'm sorry, I motioned to approve without condition.
Without conditions, yes.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Who was that?
Arnie.
All right, Mr. Farner, thank you. We have a second. At this time, I'd like to call for a vote. Mr. Frank, how do you vote?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Sprunger?
Approve.
Mr. Nandor?
Approve.
Ms. Coleman?
Approve.
I also vote yes. Your variance has been approved. Congratulations. Thank you.
Guys, before we go on, I'm having trouble with my battery. It's not charging for some reason. need to take a little break to make sure it's plugged in correctly.
Okay. All right, can we take what do you need? You think 5 minutes? Good?
Yeah, I'm not sure why I've got it plugged in. I'm not sure why it's not charging. Hold 1 second.
All right. We'll just take a 5-minute break until Courtney's ready.
Let me see. Okay, it's charging now, I think.
All right, we ready for the second matter?
Yeah.
I think we lost Mr. Springer and Mr. Vunich. Oh, there's Mr. Springer.
Madam Chair, I do see Director Bunich on there. Would you like me to continue?
Please.
Board of Adjustment 1420, Sean and Julie Morris, 245 Bountiful Point Circle, Wildwood, Missouri, 63040. Request an exception to the natural resource protection standards for the purpose of installing a fence, which will encroach into a portion of the 100% protected area upon the subject property, which is located at 245 Bountiful Point Circle, St. Louis County, locator number 24U410302, Lot 53 of Unclips at Cherry Hills Subdivision, Plat 3, established in 2004, Plat Book 352, page 506. If granted, this variance would thereby authorize the current fence to be relocated into the preservation area not to exceed 25 feet. This request is contrary to the requirements of Chapter 415.120 R1A Residence District Regulations of the City of Wildwood Zoning Ordinance, Chapter 420.200 Natural Resource Protection Standards of the City of Wildwood's Subdivision and Development Regulations, and Planned Residential Development Overlay District Ordinance number 865. This is located in Ward 8. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gasson.
Madam Chair, with your permission, the Department of Planning would like to introduce into the record regarding this particular request the following items. Chapter 400 of the City of Wildwood Municipal Code, Article 2, the Board of Adjustment. Chapter 415 of the same City of Wildwood Municipal Code, the Zoning Ordinance. The file that has been developed and maintained regarding this request by the Department of Planning and all contents contained therein, which includes the department's recommendation report on this matter. And then finally, any testimony, exhibits, or other items provided as part of this hearing. Madam Chair, with your permission, Ms. Arnett will now share a screen and I will provide a brief explanation of the slides regarding this particular site.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Madam Chair and members of the board, the first slide is an aerial photograph of the subject property and its location on Bountiful Point Circle. The second slide, Madam Chair and members of the board, is the road map, so to speak, that we provide relative to the location of the subject site to City Hall. As you can see, it's a short distance removed from City Hall and part of the Enclaves at Cherry Hills Subdivision. The third slide, again, is an aerial photograph of the property. And again, I want to highlight in this particular instance, in the upper left corner of the aerial photograph is a water feature, a large lake. And thank you, Ms. Arnett. The next slide is the aerial photograph, now with the topographic information added to it. This particular lot has a walkout basement, so it's level at the street and slopes toward the rear of the lot or in a westerly direction toward the lake. The next slides are of the subject property itself. This is the front elevation of the property taken from Bountiful Point Circle, excuse me. Again, still at the street looking toward the west and the lake. And this is the north side of the property and dwelling. A little further down the hill, you're getting in perspective of the walkout basement and the design of the home. Again, this is looking to the west. The department now is at the edge of the existing fence, which is in the disturbable area. We're looking across the rear yard area in what I would describe as a southeasterly direction. As you can see, there are a number of playground type equipment, and the petitioners have children. This is looking back toward the street, so now in an easterly direction from the rear of the lot and at the proximity of the lake and the city's multiple use recreational trail. Here back at the street, and we're looking now again to the west, but now we're on the south side of the house and again looking toward the west. And we've walked across the lawn toward the west and now are at the rear and looking toward the east, back toward the street. And again, another perspective across the rear yard area, now looking in a northeasterly direction. This is at the corner of the existing fence. The area to be fenced is the remainder of the petitioner's rear yard area. You can see in this slide the recreational trail that's that the city of Wildwood maintains and owns. And then you can see the large water feature. This large water feature was the centerpiece of the Farmer Golf Course, and I believe still is a major amenity for the enclaves at Cherry Hills. And here's a better photograph of the large water feature and its context relative to the subdivision. This is the multiple use recreational trail, and this is looking toward the south. And this is on the same feature looking toward the north. And again, you can see the rear yard area that the petitioner would like to fence. And this is looking from the trail now directly east. And it gives you a perspective of the rear of the dwelling, the rear yard area that is disturbable, the existing fence, and then the area that the petitioners would like to extend the fence into for the purposes of this request. And here again is an aerial photograph. The extent of the encroachment of the fence into the protected area on its north side would be approximately 23 feet. And on the south side would be about 24 feet. Madam Chair, thank you for your attention, and to the board members as well. If there are any questions regarding the presentation of photographs and slides, Ms. Gaston, Ms. Arnett, I would be glad to try to answer them at this time.
Thank you, Director Vunich. Are there any questions for the Department of Planning at this time? All right, petitioner, please state your name, address, and relation to the property, and then be sworn in by the court reporter.
Madam Chair, before I interrupt Mr. Morris, which I already have, Mr. Sprunger, I believe you have a question.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
That's okay. Just a real quick point of clarification. So when they talk about moving the fence back, they mean extending the two sides and then the entire back of the fence.
That's my understanding, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Sprunger. Any other questions for Director Vunich? All right, can the petitioner please state your name and address in relation to the property and then be sworn in by the court reporter.
You bet. Thanks, everybody. Everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good, thanks. So this is Sean Morris, 245 Bountiful Point Circle, Wildwood, Missouri 63040, and I'm the owner of the house.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Courtney.
All right. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, about the truth?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Morris, if you wouldn't mind explaining the nature of your request and the hardship or practical difficulty necessitating the variance as it relates to the character of the property?
You bet. So we just simply want to move our fence back. It's a high trafficked area. We have kids and a dog. So originally we put the fence in because when we moved into the house, we had a very young child. And as it was mentioned, we have 4 children. So we really wanted to protect him from wandering off into the beautiful lake behind us, of course. Once we did that, because we have a fence and the neighbors next to us don't, there was a lot of cut through and a lot of activity in the area that's not fenced as part of our yard. And so we simply just want to move that back to keep out the traffic. I think I mentioned in the proposal or my submission that there's routinely there's trash and fishing equipment. And, one time I stepped on a fishing hook and luckily I had a tennis shoe on and it's stuck in the tennis shoe, but I would just hate for that to happen to my family or anybody else, walking around. So I figure I could control that a lot better if there's a fence and I can maintain it better and make sure that doesn't happen.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Are there any board members that have any questions, Mr. Morris?
Go inside.
All right. Ms. Arnett, are there any members of the public that have any comments that you've seen?
There's no members of the public.
Oh, even better. Thank you, Mr. Morris.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to offer the opportunity to hear an oral report of the department's report. Seeing no request for that, I'd like to offer the Department of Planning the opportunity to make any final comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair and members of the board, the department has provided a recommendation report regarding this matter. That recommendation report is favorable toward the requested variance. In past instances where the board has granted variance in the enclaves at Cherry Hills for fences in the protected area, it has done it based upon issues relating to trespass due to the proximity of the lot to high traffic areas. And this is the situation we have with this particular request. And so again, we believe the impact of the extension of fence is minimal and will not have a detrimental effect on stormwater runoff. And therefore, the department is again recommending approval. Madam Chair and members of the board, the department, Ms. Gaston, Ms. Arnett, and I are available for any questions or comments regarding the report or the request itself. And as always, thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Director Bunich. Does anybody have any final questions or comments from the board?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Vunich, what precedents, other than the statements you made, which I'm familiar with, some of the variances that we've granted in those protected areas, but what about the other neighbors along that path? Do we see fences that have been granted variances that close to the edge of property and that close to the trail, et cetera?
Yes, we have. And although the trail is in an easement, the easement's significantly greater than the trail width. So we're not concerned that the fence will create an obstruction. In fact, Mr. Morris in his application noted that there'll be a distance of at least 2 or 3 feet between the edge of the trail, which is in closest proximity to his lot, and the new fence. And we'll verify that, obviously, when Mr. Morris submits a authorization for the installation, if the board grants the variance, obviously. But as the board is aware, each request is unique unto itself and does not create a precedent. And so from the perspective of the department, with children near water, the multiple use trail, we just feel that the public safety component here outweighs any potential risk for the future.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and one follow-on question, which I didn't ask the petitioner, but has the Homeowners Association approved this? Or are they waiting for this?
Well, I've spoken to the property management group and also the homeowners association. I've had the president come down to my house and view the yard. So as I understand, they've made the recommendation to approve it pending approval from the city of Wildwood. So I believe that's the case. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Thank you, Mr. Nandor. Are there any other questions for the petitioner for the Department of Planning? All right, at this time. Hold on. Does the board have any final comments? Have I already asked that? Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. We've all been there, so that's okay. I'd like to follow up on Bob's question about the homeowners association. Is it normal for the homeowners association to wait until the city approves, or is it normally the homeowners association would approve it as input for the city's decision?
Mr. Sprunger, it seems to vary depending on the management company that the subdivision may employ. And if there is no management company, how the trustees manage their own affairs. What I would suggest is if there's an intent to make a favorable recommendation, condition it on receiving the approval from the homeowners association.
Okay, thanks. That makes sense.
All right, if there are no other comments, I'd like to close the proceeding before a vote. And can I call for a vote for a motion to approve, deny, or approve with conditions?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve, subject to two things. One, acceptance or approval from the homeowners association. And then secondly, simply that the fence maintains the same character, design, look as what the existing fence is.
All right, we have a motion to approve with two conditions. The first condition is HOA approval, and the second is that the character and design of the fence is the same as the existing fence. Do we have a second?
I will second those recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Frank. Mr. Frank, how do you vote?
To approve with the conditions stated.
Mr. Nandor, how do you vote?
Approve.
Ms. Coleman, how do you vote?
Approve.
Mr. Sprunger, how do you vote?
Yeah, approve with the conditions.
And I'll also vote, I will approve with those two conditions, that the HOA approves it and that the character of the fence is the same as the existing fence. Congratulations, your variance request has been conditionally approved.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, that's all we have tonight. And I'd like to thank Ms. Tallman, Mr. Young, Ms. Arnett, Ms. Gaston for their service, as well as all of you. We can do none of this without you five. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Runich.
Thank you. Next
Anything
meeting
else?
is, hello, next meeting is scheduled for July 16th, and we already have one case.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.